All right. We're live and I'm handing the meeting over to you.
Okay, this is a meeting of the White Lake Township Parks and Rec Committee on May 12th, 2021 at 7 p.m. First, we're going to call the meeting to order if I can get some assistance with that.
So roll call, Deb Darren. We didn't hear you, Deb.
Present, White Lake.
Thanks. Andrea Voorhees.
Present, White Lake.
Mary Carlock.
Present, White Lake.
Kathy Asseltine.
Present, White Lake.
CJ Bratta.
Here, White Lake Township.
Rhonda Grubb.
Here, White Lake.
Okay, is that everybody?
That's everyone.
Okay, and I have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
United States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I wonder if I should, I'm just gonna put the agenda up here for a second. Just till we get going a little bit. So we have approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes, corrections to the agenda before we approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll support.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 And then we have minutes that were provided to us from the April 14th meeting. Have there been any changes or corrections? Everybody have a chance to read those? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 14, 2021.
Okay, from CJ, and a second
Second.
from Deb. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed. Call to the public. Is there anybody waiting in our waiting room to speak?
At the moment, there's no one in the waiting room and there's no one in the meeting. If anyone
Okay.
would like to join, it is *9 into their phones to raise their hands.
I would just like to say that I have been in contact with someone from Lakewood Village. And I will discuss that conversation I had with them when we get to other business or communications.
Okay, thank you. And so just if anybody is listening who would like to speak, just go ahead and do this call in and do the *9. If it's later in the meeting, that's okay. We're kind of casual here in Parks and Rec. Okay, I'm going to quit sharing and turn it over to Justin to talk about the Stanley Park entrance sign and an update on the park and the picnic tables. And then we have a discussion of bylaws. So I have to remember those items because I'm going to stop looking at this screen.
So I'll share my screen now. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. So the Stanley Park entrance sign, and then maybe what I might jump ahead a little bit and give my Stanley Park update, and then we can come back and talk about the sign. So
Okay.
we've, maybe I'll go back to sharing my screen. So we did order picnic tables. If you recall, at the last meeting, we had discussed a quote, and I said that I was still looking at another supplier, and they came back with a more favorable quote. So we ordered six tables in total, 2 standard that you saw last time, 2 rectangular, and then 2 ADA compliant tables. They're steel powder coated frames with recycled plastic tops. So total with shipping is just under $5,000. Because it's under $5,000, we didn't have to go to the township board for approval, so we just ordered it. So they'll be delivered hopefully before Memorial Day, and we can have an assembly party. These tables come with a 50-year warranty, which is pretty good. They're made in the USA, so I was happy with that. They're coming from Illinois or Wisconsin, so they're coming from nearby. We have directions they come in boxes and we have to assemble it. That doesn't look too complicated, but we'll attack that and put those together, like I said, hopefully before Memorial Day. So we did have an anonymous donor pay for one of the picnic tables. So we're very thankful to that couple, and we may get a little placard if they agree to it to put on the tables to recognize their generosity. So we were happy about that. And so that's my update on the tables.
That's quite a big difference in cost.
Yeah. So if you recall, when we first started looking, I think we were considering tables for like $20,000 from Victor Stanley with that Ipe wood that's, supposed to be indestructible jungle wood, I guess I will call it. It comes from South America, but
that's really the big cost factor for those tables.
Yeah,
plus
that
design,
Ipe wood.
kind of
So
from a designy company. These look fine. 50 years should be more than enough time.
and we'll see
But
how these.
I like the idea that someone's donated, and maybe that's something we can continue to offer on our website for, memorial tables at different parks or benches, that sort of thing.
Yep. So that was great. I don't know if anyone's driven by the park recently, you'll notice that the parking lot was graded. Someone could have, broken ankle walking up there. It was just kind of rough. So we graded it out and put some asphalt millings down just to kind of define that area. We put some small rocks around the parking area just to kind of clean it up and give it a good look. So that's going well. We're doing some cleaning up of the beach area and just generally trying to clean up the park before the weather gets too nice and everyone's out there. We did seed the meadow area in the core of the park, so we brushed that, brush hogged that, and graded it and seeded it. So if you're down in the park, it's going to look hopefully cleaner, and you can see that we're trying to just do some relatively minor work before we hopefully get a grant and do our larger phase 1 development next year. What else? We are, speaking of cleaning up the park, going to have a cleanup day. I know it's last minute, but it's going to be this Saturday, May 15th from 9 to noon. So if anyone is around from 9 to noon on Saturday and want to bring a pair of gloves and wear outdoor footwear, we have a dumpster down there. So we'll provide garbage bags, but we'll walk around and pick up any loose debris that we can. We won't do any heavy lifting, but we'll try to go through the property and get what we can.
Get a Facebook post out for that tomorrow.
You will have it out tomorrow. I know it's last minute.
Yeah, it's last minute.
It wasn't.
I know.
It's just that's how it goes sometimes. So.
Yep. I will be moving my daughter to Holland, so I'm not available. Maybe next time.
Can I ask a question about
Yes,
that,
please.
Justin?
Sure.
I was out there the other day and appreciated the parking lot. But I noticed I didn't go far because it started pouring rain and it was cold. There's a lot of concrete. Should I be bringing, my husband and I will be there. We were thinking maybe a wheelbarrow and shovels. I mean, the concrete, what's to be picked up?
Yeah, so nothing heavy. So I know the concrete, there's some cinder blocks out there. We're just kind of piling that up right now. So I'm not expecting anyone to lift cinder blocks and throw them into the dumpster. I don't want any, township doesn't want me filing a workman's comp claim, but and I wouldn't do that. But no, if you want to bring a wheelbarrow, that might be a good idea. Like I said, I'll just have trash bags, some large, bags. So bring gloves, bring outdoor footwear. If you want to bring a wheelbarrow, that might be good, but I plan on handing out trash bags and walking through the park. And if there's just lots of light debris out there from, its previous use. We did a pretty good job getting the large stuff out of there, but when you get off the main path, you'll find a lot of stuff that can be picked up. So.
And the trees that have the blue tape around it, what does that indicate?
That they were trimmed. So
Okay.
or pruned last fall.
Yeah, someone who will remain anonymous was freaking out that we were going to cut them down. I'm like, no, I don't know what it means, but they're not coming down.
Yeah, no. So last fall we did with Dawson's, we had them engaged to trim some of the oaks, try to prevent
Oak wilt,
some
yeah.
issues with that. So we tried to remove all the ribbon. Maybe we missed some, but the blue ribbon signified what trees were pruned and trimmed. So.
Thank you.
But that's
We'll have to put a Sharpie and draw little hearts on them so people,
yeah.
'cause they do tend to think of ribbon means.
Yeah, I think before, usually orange signifies like goodbye
Yeah.
tree.
Mhm.
But
Or the big X on the bark, that's
Yeah.
bad.
But so that's what we've been doing out there. So our maintenance department, specifically John Wheaton, who's been with the township a long time, he's taken this on, and during work, and then he's also donated a lot of personal time to the park. So I want to publicly recognize him, because without him, he's doing a lot of work out there, like I said, on and off township time. So we appreciate
We
that.
need to invite him to one of our meetings at some point and thank him.
So that's my update on just what's been going on out there since we've last met. So just a lot of activity, nothing major, just kind of getting it ready for summer use. And I think people will go out there and want to have picnics and use the picnic tables and enjoy the water and just walk around. So, we did order dog waste stations. We ordered 3 of those, so those will be installed in the next couple of weeks. So a lot of things happening out there. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to answer them, or else I'll move on to the entrance sign. So when we were working with Beckett and Rader on our grant application, they identified a potential budget of $20,000 for the park entrance sign that was roped into the grant application. We would want to consider installing this prior to receiving funding and next year. So this is the spec for the Bloomer Park sign, and that sign is pretty large, so we'd want to probably shrink that down a bit. And some of the materials that you see here aren't accurately reflected of what's the materials and finish on the sign. There were some changes that were made at the time of construction, but we'd have any bidders look at the Bloomer Park sign before providing a quote, and then we'd have the sign fabricator provide the complete drawings for us to review, so we could make sure that it's going to match a similar style, if that's the direction we want to go. Obviously, we don't have to have it in the same manner or style as the Bloomer sign. That was just an idea. And like I said, we identified a budget of $20,000 for that. So just wanted to get the.
Or are you thinking, or the township thinking they want to install this now? I just worry about where exactly the entrance drive things could move a little bit in your final site development. So I'd hate to buy a really fancy sign and maybe you could buy the sign panel and do a temporary install to have one sooner than later, and then the grant could help build the stone part later. Sure,
and that's a great idea, and that's why we wanted to run it by you. The idea is that we want to have some type of sign out there. The supervisor thought, let's just do the full-blown sign now and get that done, because I think the entrance drive, I think that will move. Yeah, I don't think that will move, and so we can shift it we can shift it farther, away from the drive to be safe. But you had a good idea, Mary, so that's a potential alternative, but we want
Or the whole, I mean, if you're, and I haven't looked at the, I mean, we have our plan basically. So if you guys are feeling confident and the supervisor is feeling like, let's pay for the sign now, obviously the grant won't support that, but then the grant can go to other things in the park. So
right.
what do other people think?
I think that the bloomer sign is a very nice looking sign. So to have something that's like that or similar. But I too worry that it might have to be moved. So I'm good with a temporary sign of some sort.
Maybe just that center panel with a more
Yeah,
temporary base.
unless we know that the driveway is going to be the driveway and that's it.
I mean, that's our plan, is to have that site plan. So I'm fine either way. I just will let you know that you're not married to the site plan. If you would like to go through all of that again, which we don't.
Right.
So,
And like you said, Mary, we've got, a conceptual design. So when you get to a final site plan, sometimes things shift or change. So while we might think we know for sure where the entrance is going to be, using the existing drive, you never know what may come up. So I think it's a legitimate consideration.
Yeah, I would love to see a permanent sign, absolutely, but at the same time, I agree. It's temporary is where it's at right now.
I do like the design of the Bloomer Park sign. I like the aesthetics of it. I think it fits the township well. And I'd like, my own personal opinion, I like to try and keep everything consistent across all the parks that we have for uniformity, similar to like the metro parks and stuff like that. Just like the design looks modern, looks kind of like rustic, kind of what we're going for with the park. And, as far as if we want to do it now or later, either way, if we could do Mary's option, that's a good option too, just to get the center panel and then, build around it once we for sure know exactly where we want to put it. I'm good with that too. So.
Yeah, we can always build the base later and use the get the permanent panel now and just put it on a temporary, base.
yeah, the grant would still cover the base.
Yep.
So you'd still get reimbursed, half the money for that. And that's kind of probably where the cost is in that nice base. And I really agree with CJ that consistent signage at our parks, and that's really something that is done in quality park systems, that even though we're small, we can have a high standard that way.
Okay. I know the Bloomer Park sign's like 8.5 feet tall. We're not going to do that again. 6 feet is probably the maximum sign height, and we want to try to stay as consistent with the township zoning ordinance as we can.
Yeah, we don't want to have to go to the ZBA.
No, we don't. So,
we might want to consider too the Civic Center. Their sign, what they're going to end up putting up. Hopefully, it'll be something similar to like the park or size. So keep that in mind too.
They'll follow our lead.
Right.
So
we'll be a trailblazer with the signs out there.
They have to match us.
But well, thanks for your feedback on that. I really think that's a good point that got brought up. So we can, if you're okay with it, get some bids for the panel, and we'll just put it on a temporary base, and that way we're not married to the location of the sign. Well, moving on from that was easy. So let me see here. Let me pull up. I can put them on the screen if you want. The bylaws we went through last time. We identified some potential changes just to document how we currently operate, some of our procedures. It changes the structure for how we nominate the chairperson and vice chairperson and when that occurs, and it eliminated the secretary position, because that's the planning department really acts as your secretary. So we can go through some of those changes again, or if you've identified something else that you would like to consider for an amendment, we could discuss that. You're not obligated to take action tonight, but you certainly could do so if you're ready. The township supervisor did review these amendments and has given his consent to move forward.
Yeah,
Just
I did read through them and I thought you made some, the changes were accurate.
Considering I didn't know we even had bylaws, these are very nice, so I'm fine with whatever.
And there's no bylaw police that's going to come along and say violation, but it just these proposed amendments to try to simplify and modernize, because the bylaws that we were currently, I don't want to say we were operating under them, but we were loosely following, were the original bylaws from '97 when the committee was created. So if there aren't any, if you're ready to move forward on that tonight, you certainly could make a motion to adopt those amendments.
I'll make a motion to adopt the amendments. Oh, sorry.
Some more discussion.
Did I hear you? What did you say about the secretary, Justin? That we don't have a secretary?
Yeah,
or
so the Parks Committee does not have a secretary, and the Planning Department acts, really as your secretary. So the Zoning Board of Appeals doesn't have a secretary either. The Planning Commission does, and I know you're the Planning Commission secretary. So really, though, the secretary doesn't serve much of a function other than maybe calling the roll, or
Very good at.
which you're very good at, or sometimes they sign, if we do a notification for like a master plan amendment, we have to send a letter to people. So sometimes the secretary signs that, the secretary of the Planning Commission. But we don't have one now for Parks and Rec. ZBA doesn't have one. So I just, we can have a secretary if you want.
should it? No. I'm just saying that in the bylaws, it still lists the secretary. Should that be taken out?
Oh, I thought that was removed. Let me pull.
Thank you for catching
those up.
that.
That's a good catch.
What page are you on, Rhonda?
Page 3.
Let me
Top
share
of the
my
page.
screen.
Oh, see, I don't have that. That's not what I have. I didn't get the red line copy.
Oh, it's in the packet that I sent out this
You
month.
must have the one from last meeting then.
The last meeting had the red line version 2. So I'll just run through these again if you don't mind. We'll be pretty quick. So just changing some language here. You were referenced as the commission, which you certainly are not. Talking about that the instead of the secretary of the committee, which we don't have, the planning department will keep your bylaws current, and they'll be available to the public upon request at the office of the township clerk. This talks about the location of the committee office, which is Township Hall. The township supervisor sets the hours to Township Hall. All communications to the committee are supposed to be addressed to the chairperson, and instead of through the supervisor's office, they come to the planning department. This talks about filling vacancies and appointments. So you can have anywhere from 5 to 9 members on the committee. You don't have to have an odd number. There's currently 6. At this time, we don't have any plans to fill vacancies. So we're going to stick with 6 for now. You serve 3-year terms. This talks about when you resign or something comes up, you just have to give us notice. We removed the section on annual budget because you don't prepare a budget. We prepare it for you, and the township board approves it. This is the appointment and tenure of chairperson and vice chairperson. We removed secretary. This is similar to how the other groups in the township do it. So following the appointments by the township board at the first regular meeting of the committee each year. You'll elect a chairperson and vice chairperson. We get into later what their roles are, but they each serve 1-year terms. So currently the chairperson is selected by the supervisor with consent supposed to be of consent of the township board. And you serve 2-year terms, and then the vice chair, I believe they serve 1 year. So this just, the election process, we haven't really been following. So this just kind of cleans it up. Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, they all choose their own chairperson and vice chairperson. So it just makes sense that we do the same. This talks about how you would nominate a person for office and you would conduct a roll call vote. Succession of office. If the chairperson wins the lottery and moves to Aruba, then the vice chair just automatically becomes the chair. And then we hold a new election for the vice chairperson. This talks about duties of the chairperson and vice chairperson. So you preside at the meetings. You decide points of order. You can remove people if they are not maintaining order and decorum. Usually we don't have that issue. Talks about appointment of subcommittees. You can appoint subcommittees with the approval of the township supervisor, and the chairperson is supposed to report to the committee any transactions which may not have come to the committee's attention. Again, we try to keep everyone on the same page. So I don't think Mary has any chairperson would have knowledge that the rest of you wouldn't have of activities that are going on. So this talks about, we're removing this section where it says where you can express your individual opinion. You can give your opinion wherever. The township's not going to tell you when you can give an opinion. You need to let us know if you're going to be absent. If you don't tell us you're going to be absent and are absent 4 times in a year, then you might be removed from the committee. Usually everyone just tells us when you're going to be absent, and that's fine. This talks about we're going to hold 6 regular meetings each year, and we'll decide when and where and the time that we're going to hold them. The previous bylaw said that we were supposed to meet on the first Wednesday of every month, and that's not what we do. We meet on the second Wednesday of every month. So this just doesn't set a specific date and time, but we'll probably continue.
Not 12 meetings, only 6.
So we can hold 12, but just at a minimum, we're going to hold 6.
So that allows you to cancel with no business.
Yep. So if there's a reason that we need to cancel, the intention is still we're going to hold 12 a year, second Wednesday, but we're going to hold a minimum of 6. So if we need to cancel, then we'll be covered. This talks about special meetings, giving you notice 72 hours beforehand, and how a special meeting can be called. Again, this talks about cancellation if we're not going to have a quorum, which is 4, or there's really insufficient business or no business that needs immediate attention, we might just cancel a meeting. Agenda, order of business. So the previous bylaws had a pretty rigid schedule or format that we were supposed to follow for meetings, which we didn't really do. So we're just going to prepare an agenda outlining the order of business. Planning department will do it. Chairperson can concur. We can make changes to the agenda at the meeting if we need to. So I think that's pretty much our standard practice. Supposed to follow Robert's Rules of Order. So sometimes if we have a lot of public comment, or if discussion can get rowdy, we can rein it in. Again, that doesn't usually happen, or I don't expect it to happen.
We had a few active meetings this year.
We did. And we were supposed to follow Robert's Rules of Order, which we did get away from a bit at that time.
Right.
Again, this is order of presenting for a public hearing. That's pretty standard what the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals follow. Approval of minutes. So you get the minutes in your packet, and once they're approved, they're maintained in your official minutes book, which is maintained not by the secretary, but it's just maintained by the township clerk. And then amending the bylaws. They can be amended with concurrence of the supervisor, and you can propose an amendment at any regular meeting of the committee. The previous bylaws said that you had to wait one meeting before you could actually vote on the amendments, but I don't think we need to have that in there. You can do that if you want to, but they don't need to be in there. Again, there was another reference to a commission when you're a committee. So those are the changes. And if you
They
have,
are all appointed by the supervisor right? At his,
what's that?
you're all appointed by the supervisor, right? I think
So you're all appointed by the supervisor with the township board's concurrence. So that's usually how it works, is the supervisor has the authority for planning commission, zoning board of appeals, parks and rec committee.
Those appointments go up every 3 years back to the board.
Correct. So I think Mary was just reappointed for, it was discovered that her term had expired, so she was reappointed.
Over objections, so.
Thank you, Mary.
So I think all of you are pretty up to date on your appointments. I don't think we have any expirations coming up this year, but we'll monitor that and make sure that you all stay valid with your terms, with the exception of Rhonda's. Her tenure on this board aligns with the planning commission, continuing her to be the
Right, she's a
liaison.
liaison.
So her term here is tied to her term on the planning commission, and when she's the liaison, then Andrea, she'll be on the board, as long as the supervisor says that she's the township board liaison. So I don't see that changing. And as long as Rhonda's on the planning commission, she'll probably be on Parks and Rec, is what I.
Thank you, Rhonda. I know, it's a
Sure.
double duty.
It's
Well,
good.
thanks for going over all that. I think Kathleen, you started a motion. Do you want to, is there any more questions first? Okay.
Thank you, Justin. I don't know how I missed that in the packet. I printed that from the packet, so I don't know what
There
happened.
were a lot of pages in the packet.
55 pages today.
I didn't print all that. Thank you.
I stand by my motion.
Want to say it again? Just for,
I
Record
move
keeping.
to approve the bylaws amendments.
presented. Okay, do we have a second? Deb, I don't know if you're you're muted.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I second.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll take a roll call vote since this is an important matter. Justin, you want to run
Sure.
that?
Kathy Asseltine,
Yes.
Deb Darren,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb,
Yes.
CJ Brada,
Yes.
Mary Carlock.
Yes.
Unanimous. Well, thank you. That was just a bit of housekeeping. That I know it's not anything exciting, but now I think we'll be good for another 25 years. No, we'll monitor that periodically and make sure that it's current and well. So,
And none of us or all of us will be here in those 20 years, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be here unless I win the lottery. So,
And then you're taking us to Aruba with you.
and we're taking our we'll have an annual conference down in Aruba and see what they do down
All
there.
right.
Set
All
up
right.
You don't
a
wanna
sister
know.
time.
Yeah.
All right, so I just looked at it and I forgot. So it's time for other business. There's no listed other business. So we're gonna go around for member comments. Kathleen, you had a resident comment. Oh, wait,
Um,
Justin first, I guess.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Justin, go ahead.
I forgot to list myself. I know Mary told me to do it last time and I forgot as a staff report. I forgot to do that. I can do it now if you want it, or I can do it later.
Sounds good.
I'll just be brief. So we're still waiting on an announcement from the Ralph Wilson grant. I expect that in the next couple of weeks. So by the end of this month, you should be hearing something. So we're just kind of in a waiting pattern on that. I already mentioned the cleanup day this Saturday, and we'll get a posting on the township Facebook page and the Parks and Rec Facebook page. Keeping in mind, just as we're wrapping up our Stanley Park planning for now, as we're waiting to hear what happens with the grant next year, our 5-year plan will need to be updated, and that's so it's valid through 2022. So that project will start next year. Just keep that usually is somewhat of a large undertaking to go through that. So I'm just thinking about that now. We don't have to start it now, but the reason I bring that up, something that came up during our discussion of Stanley Park or dog parks, and whether or not that was something that should be provided in the township. And in my opinion is that it needs to really be studied. It's not something that can just be decided, at a meeting or two. And I don't want to get bogged down discussing dog parks next year when we're trying to do the update to the entire plan. So I may, if Mary and the committee agree, we may start a multi-month study on dog parks and take the next several meetings to review some information and discuss them in more detail. I have my opinions on them just in the research that I have done, but it's a committee decision, and we'll look at some information and we'll take some time and go through it. So my hope is that after we discuss it, and if it takes us through the end of the year, it takes us through the end of the year. If it takes us 3 meetings, it takes us 3 meetings, but we'll have a decision on, or at least a direction on dog parks. So when we're updating our 5-year plan next year, we're not bogged down with that, because there's just,
we could adopt a policy in advance of the rec plan.
yeah, it's too much next. And I was just thinking ahead, and it's going to be too much next year to try to talk about dog parks and the 5-year plan, especially, the 5-year plan has census information in it and some, demographic and backgrounds. And with the 2020 census up, that all should be released, that information soon. So we're going to have to update the plan with the census information and compile that and create new graphics. And so there's just going to be a lot of work to that. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that it's going to take some time. So I'd like to separate the two issues.
That's a great idea.
So that's really all that I had as a report. So you might be seeing some information in June about dog parks, and like I said, it could be a multi-month study, and it could potentially take us through the end of the year. But I would be happy, it's something that I think we should do just because it probably warrants the time and a direction from the committee. So we'll probably be meeting outside in July, August, and September. And next month we may or may not meet in person. So sorry, Mary, did you say?
No, I was just happy to hear it outside, and I wanted to throw June in the mix.
Oh, June is either going to be on Zoom or in person. And then we'll probably go outside starting in July, if that's okay. So we'll have probably one more Zoom meeting, and then we'll go outside if that's okay.
Fun.
But
Maybe we could, if we did June, July, August, September, maybe next year, we can start trying to meet in each park one summer month each year.
Yeah, I agree, but
that's fine.
I just think right now we need to do one more meeting on Zoom.
Yeah.
So before we go outside, and I guess since I'm doing some updates, and this all kind of relates to COVID. So the state's updated some of their COVID policies, and there's a new order for masks and when you need to wear them and when you don't. So they've released this, they call it back to normal or VAC to normal. So as of April 29th, we had about 49% of residents 16 and over with a first dose of a vaccine. So they've kind of identified steps of when we will get back to normal. It just was announced, I think, the other day that we had reached step 1. So that's where I think we're at step 1 now, working towards step.
Yeah, you need the 14 days too to implement it.
Yeah. So I think we reached, yeah, you're right, Mary. So we reached the 55%. So we're at 55%, and we're in that plus 14-day period at this point. And the state released this nice little graphic of, they call it choosing safer activities, of So if you're gathering outdoors over 100 people, you should have a mask, and we don't enforce any of this. This is just for informational purposes, but I thought it would be just something I would include in my update. So.
Well, that being said, I've had a couple people say other communities are having concerts. Why aren't we having concerts? And I said, until we get the go ahead from you, Justin, then I'm not going to be the COVID police to enforce any of this. I know some communities are scheduling concerts for July, but can you maybe tell us how any of that latest information would affect the possibility of some kind of communal gathering?
It's really hard because the guidance is changing, and the numbers, while they're coming down now, and we hope that trend continues, it's hard to monitor how many people are going to attend an event. And the township's not going to police who wears a mask, and we're not going to police if you're 6 feet apart or socially distanced. So it's just better to be safe than sorry. So I know some people are kind of dipping their toe in that water and trying to get back to holding some events, but I'm just not comfortable doing something like that right now. And, based on our discussion last month, I think we were all kind of on the same page of maybe in 2022, next year we'll have an event and we'll do it well, and we'll know that we can do it safely. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to share some of the updated guidance, but the kids that, we're renting our pavilions in our fields. So, the Vetter Park ball field's being used pretty heavily right now. St. Pat's, and there's another team that use it pretty frequently. And so the kids are out there playing, and, we give them a COVID addendum, so they're aware of when they sign the field rental agreement they at least acknowledge the state's guidance. Like I said, we don't enforce it, but we share it. So that was my update. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it.
That sounds good. I just took a break from looking at the Oakland County COVID charts for a couple of weeks, and when I left, it was at 1,600 deaths, and a couple of weeks later, it was at 2,000 deaths. So there's still a lot of people in the hospital, and it's great that people are getting vaccinated and that everything's dropping and the hospital rate's dropping, but we're not out of the woods. So I think that we're doing the right thing.
I have a question for Justin about the Triangle Trail. For the Ralph Wilson Foundation grant that you applied for, is it just for Elizabeth Lake Road, or is it going to take it up Tigerdyne as well?
The grant that we applied for was just to design the Triangle Trail, so it wasn't to construct it. So
Right, I know.
Yeah. So the $50,000 grant that we applied for would
The whole thing.
Would be
Design the whole
thing, right?
Okay, and then just funding and implementing after if we get that awarded that, then we'll go into developing it, and it'd be all done at one time, not segmented, right?
Hopefully.
I don't know. It could potentially be segmented or done at one time. It just depends on if we may or may not seek another grant, and if we do, it just depends on the funding and kind of timing. So
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, the township, I guess. Another update: we applied for a federal grant for the reconstruction of Elizabeth Lake Road between Highland Road and Tigerdyne, and with that would be constructing the rest of the pathway on the library side, for the Civic Center in front of Stanley Park. So
Road widening.
Yeah, there's the potential roundabout, at Town Center where it would meet the Civic Center. So that's a $1.6 million grant that the township would contribute $400,000 to, for a total of a $2 million project. So hopefully we have some information this summer or fall on that. So like I said, that was a federal grant that we've applied for.
Are we still doing the roundabouts on Elizabeth Lake Road at Oxbow and Tigerdyne as planned from last year, or no?
Yeah, the road commission slated that for 2022.
Okay.
That's coming right up.
Yeah. So hopefully, the timing of it is could be good, because if we design the Triangle Trail this summer, keeping our fingers crossed that we are going to get that 50,000. If we have that designed when they're doing their road work at the Tigerdyne intersection, we can do our pathway at the same time. And so they're, not
It'll be completed.
Yeah, we won't put in pathway and then they come in and say, oh, it's in the way of our roundabout, it's got to be removed. And so we're going to coordinate with them as much as we can on the design and construction.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. So a lot going on, where it's exciting, and a lot of it is, I think there's good things to come. I think in a couple of weeks, hopefully we have some good news to share and on the Ralph Wilson grant. So very excited.
All right. I think we'll go back to Kathleen and start our member comments again.
If I could just back up for just a second, I want to corroborate what Justin said about dog parks. Initially, like, dog park, what could go wrong? Dog park,
Right.
everybody wants a dog park, but I've also been kind of digging into this, and I'm seeing a dark side to dog parks. And I've talked to my niece who's a vet tech, and I've heard some other things and started reading up on it. Dog parks aren't these beautiful little playgrounds for puppies. There's liability, there's just a ton of issues with dog parks. And I guess I never realized that there's a lot more dog parks. And thank you, Justin. This is something we definitely need to look into further, and it's a good time to do it when we're not being pressed to deal with other issues. So thank you for calling that to our attention. Okay, a couple things. The another cleanup, again with COVID, I don't know what that would look like, but some feedback from the Huron River watershed people trying to think of how to engage with us and engage with our community. In particular, our Lakewood Village people is, they suggested that at some cleanup day, a little more formal than this kind of impromptu one we're having, that maybe they could come and give a presentation. There's something called the Michigan Corps and the Michigan Shoreland Steward Program, where you can get involved in, citizens can get involved in, like, the chemistry, the flow, the habitat, plant IDs, and things like that. So I don't know if it'll be possible, and they're checking with their people, again, with all the COVID, but if we had a more formal cleanup day, that might be something that would be good to have. And that kind of ties into the communications with some of the citizens. Lakewood Village is interested in developing some of their parks, and was curious where they could maybe get some kind of help from somebody to help design those parks. It's not 100% clear to me. I just had this conversation today with one of the members of Lakewood Village Association. And so I'm thinking, would it be possible for us to consult with them, and possibly the Huron River Watershed Council partners up with communities to help development. So again, I'm short on details, but I know there is an interest from the people in the Lakewood Village Association of developing some of their parks. So what do you think about a more formalized cleanup day and presentation by the Huron River Watershed Council? And how do you feel about us somehow trying to give a hand to the Lakewood Village Association in the development of their parks?
I would say that we could provide input to them, but we can't provide design services. So if they want to give us, some more information on what they're looking to do, and maybe get us some simple concept plans, and let us know what type of amenities that they want to provide. It's a neighborhood park for them.
But it's private. Yeah.
It's private. And so we'd certainly be willing to comment on it just as from a recreation and park standpoint, but we're not going to get in really to, and we can't get into assisting them with design or really spending any resources on it.
If they want to deed their parks over to no, it's not a joke, really. If they want to deed it over to, then they'd be eligible, just like all our other sites are eligible for grants to develop the site.
What would they look like? Should we allow them to give us a presentation at one of our meetings?
They're the public, they can come and talk about their parks. I mean, there's a lot of neighborhood associations run parks and then they find, there's a lot of things to run a park, just like a dog park. And so, I mean, but we can talk to them casually and I'm happy to do that myself. But, as long as it's a private property that's not open to all of our public, then we can't help.
Well,
Some communities do find it useful to transfer and not all, and we don't necessarily seek that, maybe that's out of our venue. If we don't have parks in everybody's neighborhood, why would we have parks in one subdivision? But I'm just saying that because it's private, we can't do too much for them.
And I think it's hard to, we have such limited resources that if we were to take on neighborhood parks, I mean, we're already stretched pretty thin with our
With our
dollars.
four parks and our
Our-
little bit of money.
Yeah. So,
well, Mary, is that something that I don't want to give you more
I'd
work.
be happy, when we're a little further past COVID and I've done it many times with different neighborhood
Okay.
associations. I can walk around and
Okay.
talk about things. I mean, it's something that makes their neighborhood more attractive, but people don't understand how much parks, we know how much it costs to keep up and develop a park that people like. So,
Right. Well,
yeah, you can.
can I
just
throw you
email me.
under the bus?
Yeah, you can give them my email and I can
I can just
walk.
tell them to contact you, yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of a more formal cleanup day with the possibility of, using the resources of the Huron River Watershed Council, what are you thinking, Justin, or anybody for that matter? The possibilities of getting people into that space, to kind of wait and see in terms of the COVID situation?
yeah, I don't know if I really have an answer to that right now.
Okay.
And
Here's the
Sue,
part.
when would you be thinking? I mean, if we're having this coming Saturday, what would be left to do to have a more formal cleanup day?
My understanding of the cleanup at this point is that we're doing it so quickly at this time of year because the undergrowth is still relatively low. And we want to really get in there and get to stuff that when things really come to full bloom and all the picker bushes, that's a scientific term, picker bushes, when they all come out, we're not going to want to be able to get in there. So this weekend, which is definitely last minute, is just to try to beat the foliage from coming out. So I'm assuming, I haven't given it a good once over, but I'm assuming there'll be plenty more to do later on. So I don't know. I will be there with my gloves, picking up cinder blocks because it's the only exercise I'm going to be getting for the last year and a half. So I don't know. What does anybody think about COVID restrictions? Taken into consideration about some kind of a more formal cleanup day.
Well, I don't think we're going to have to be dealing with large crowds. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind another, if it's needed, see what it looks like after this. I mean, it's a park that's potentially could go into construction, but it might be 2 years before that happens. So
So you're
I
saying
just
we have
don't
plenty
know.
of time. We have time.
we have time for, it'd probably be 2023 that you would be in construction or late 22. So we do have a couple years or a year and a half to have the park without all these improvements. I don't know how, I can't recall how that it's that bad myself, but I know that litter gets worked into the bushes and the wetlands and stuff. So
There might be ways, Kathy, to engage with them in the future that doesn't revolve around a cleanup day. Some other type of event that maybe we can do in the fall.
Okay.
a water festival like they do in a lot of communities.
Okay. I like that idea.
We can kind of rotate maybe an annual park cleanup among our parks, so that
Okay.
this one's our focus now, but we have other parks and maybe they don't need, I mean, they all look very nice. So sometimes you would get a big cleanup and there's not that much to do, but
Back in the
Who's-
day, sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say back in the day, we had the prisoner group that used to come out and clean
Oh,
up.
that, yep,
But,
they're
we,
gone,
they're gone now.
and their
so,
building's gone too.
Yep. So no more prisoners. So that was kind of some free labor that we were able to take advantage
I do
of.
know that on the Historical Society uses the prisoner group for the tree lighting usually, so I know that they still do exist.
And I know at Hess Hathaway, we use them. They have their own garden that they grow food for, food kitchens and stuff.
Really?
We had
Yeah.
heard recently that or at least we can't use them right now just because of what's going on. So
Right, COVID.
But I know that they enjoyed the tree lighting ceremony, getting out there and getting outside and,
Yeah, they're used at Oakland County 4-H Fair, but not last year because there was no
Right.
public fair.
yeah.
So we'll just sit on this for a bit.
Yep.
And it's funny how last minute, I said, hey, last minute, who wants to come to Stanley Park and clean up? Oh, I got to wash my hair. I got to pull weeds.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to be an issue where like, oh, there's hundreds of people are showing up.
Yeah, and if you look at our Facebook post, because the DNR doesn't give much notice for theirs either. I usually find out the same week, and then I send it to Justin and ask him to post it. But they have invasive species control over at Highland Rec. They've got, I think, maybe this Saturday, and they have a couple other dates, and they periodically publish those. So that's something that I'd like to get involved with someday, and as well as our own parks.
Okay.
Anything else, Kathleen?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, that was quite a bit. And thank you again for bringing our speaker series. You're in charge of our speaker series. And I hope that people are able to watch that. And I think that's really a nice presentation that she made for us.
Good.
And hopefully the public.
Good. Thank you.
Andrea, I'm going by my screen mix so you don't know where you are, but on my screen, Andrea, you're next.
No, you're good. You're good. I just want to apologize again for not being at the last meeting. However, this is what I love about our Zoom/COVID world. I was able to listen to it, watch it, and still be up to date. Seriously, because other than that, I'm just gonna have to read minutes. So I appreciate this world in an odd way.
Yeah.
So Township has been quiet, but busy at the same time. Justin prior gave us a lot of the updates. We actually had a board meeting last night. And as you guys know, I like to talk about more of the exciting things. Like last night, we approved 3 new police cars. They're the Dodge Durangos. They're part of the traditional turnover that we have in White Lake Township. Why did I put May 12th as my minutes? I don't know. Oh, May 16th. I'm sorry. I can't make it to the cleanup, Kathleen and everybody. That's Voorhees cleanup at my mom and dad's house. My sister's coming to town, so I'm taking advantage of her coming to town, and we're doing more spring cleaning. One of my favorite days or activities to do with White Lake Township is coming up. No Has, June 5th, 9 to 1 at the Coles parking lot. There's every bit of a list online on the township website of things they do and don't take. It's just a fun day to see how green White Lake Township really is. It seemed like last year we were really close to record numbers. I'm sure it helped, the COVID helped because people cleaned, but people brought at the same time. We were pretty
happy to get rid of my lifetime supplies of expired batteries.
No, absolutely. Yep, I agree. Since we've met, I'm assuming we all know, but I just need to say it again that we have a new fire chief, John Holland, Marinucci, retired, and John was promoted all in the same 3 hours potentially. John is the longest employee of White Lake Township. He's been around since 85, if I'm thinking correctly. So he brings us 30 some odd years of knowledge in the fire world. So he's great because he's one of the first homegrown fire chiefs we've had in quite a few years. I absolutely can name some, but I'm not going to. but it's been quite a few years since we've had a homegrown chief. And that's it. And I'm looking forward to having some meetings outside. I would love to see one at Fisk Farm, and I don't care which meeting it is. Whatever meeting we decide, I'll do the contacting. And I'm sure the Fisk Farm people will, or the Historical Society people will probably be more than accommodating to let us in. Oh, and speaking of Historical Society, tomorrow night's our first face-to-face meeting we've had all year.
All that.
Yeah, they've been really, the seniors, obviously, you know, is a very vulnerable age group. So, yeah, they've been really cautious, and like when the numbers were up and they canceled, it wasn't even a question. So, even though it's been a quiet year for everybody, it's also a cautious year, especially for our wonderful seniors. So, anyhow, that's it, you guys. As always, I finish off by saying stay safe, be healthy, and I'm going to add a new line this month: get vaccinated, bring us back to normal.
Yep. Okay, Deb.
Hi, I talked to a couple people at Hidden Pines subdivision, and they really like that park that we have, the design and the use, and they just had all good things to say about it. And then I told them I helped facilitate that park, not until they told me they really no.
That's a safe way.
Yeah, so that was good news. And then there's a couple of events going on. Someone's the township supervisor and police chief, and they're going to meet with somebody to plan a half marathon in the township. So we will do hopefully we can help back that or support that when the time comes, if we're needed to do that. But so there's a couple of other running events going on. So that's a good, bring Highland Rec is going to have one, Indian Springs. So there's some events going on and starting slowly to get back.
Can you notify Justin when those registrations open up so we can post it on our Facebook page? Thank you.
Yes, I will do that. Great idea. But that's it. So thanks everybody.
Rhonda?
First off, before I forget, at our last planning commission meeting, one of the commissioners asked if I could ask if anyone has heard anything about Oakland County Parks offering free park passes to seniors. Yes, no?
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. And also, I guess we've had 2 meetings for planning commission since our last meeting. I'll try to keep it really brief. We recommended to the board, there's a piece of property that's behind AutoZone on 59 there. They wanted to rezone that piece of property from suburban farms to local business. We did recommend to the board that be approved. They just want to offer I guess they have a landscape business and they just want to keep their supplies and their dirt that they're going to use. They won't be doing any kind of retail out of there. They just want to run their business out of there. Right now there's a house back there and running that business as also. Then also, what else did we have? Just a conceptual plan presentation for that piece of property where the mobile home park was. They had quite the concept with a lot going on. Restaurant, decks to pull up, offices, apartments, carport with carports. It was quite a lot. I was having a hard time envisioning all of that going on in that little piece of property, but it seemed to be fairly well received. But everybody did have concerns over the density, storm drainage. Actually, that was like the day after our last meeting, I think, I think it was the day after that we listened to the lady from the Huron River or Huron Valley River. You know what I'm trying to say. Watershed Council. Thank you. So that was fresh on my mind about stormwater runoff and those kinds of things. Our last meeting last week, we had, there's a piece of property on Cedar Island, just west of Bogey Lake Road. And it kind of comes out, and then it actually comes out onto Bogey Lake Road also. It's about 45 acres. They were asking to have that property, the 10 acres right on Cedar Island Road, rezoned, so that they could build. They wanted to go from, eventually they'll have the property split to go from agricultural to single family residential. And they want to put 8 homes in on the 10 acres there along, right on Cedar Island. So we recommended that zoning change. And then Lake Point, the piece of property on Union Lake Road, on the east side there by Carpathian, they had their final site plan approval, final site plan presentation. And then we recommended to the board also that they go ahead and get that. And I think that's it, unless Mary can think of something I may have missed.
I missed last week's meeting, so I
Oh,
know that
okay.
was a busy agenda when I was in Kentucky.
You covered it all, Rhonda.
Okay,
You got it.
stumbled a
Have
bit,
any
but I got it.
other member comments? Not
Yeah, I just want to
liaison based.
thank Justin for all his work on the picnic tables. I know that you did a lot of work on that, getting bids. I appreciate you getting one that's even cheaper than the last one, and that is more, expedited delivery, so that way we can use them this year versus the other companies. So I just want to thank you for all your hard work. I know that it definitely takes a lot of work to figure all this stuff out, especially nowadays with all the supply shortages. So
Thank you.
And I just wanted to ask a quick question. If we could potentially look into for the trails at the Stanley Park. I know Indian Springs, I know Stony Creek and Rochester area, they have trails that are not really like gravel. They're not really anything yet. They're just pretty much mowed, like they just brush hog and then they just had, regular mowing on them. I don't know if we can do something similar in the meantime before we start developing, just so people can walk a little bit more further in the park and do stuff, it's like a loop or something. Maybe we could look into that for future use. And that's all I really had for tonight.
Okay. Thank you, CJ. I wasn't intending, I was about to get to you, so I was just going around my pictures here. I had a few things. I'm looking forward for positive results on your grant applications. I'm happy to see the township aggressively seeking grants besides our recreation grants, because that's how you leverage your local money, which is limited, but I know that it's a lot of work to apply for grants. When we get to the recreation plan, I think we need a separate companion non-motorized plan that's really just a non-motorized plan, and maybe even a consultant who specializes in that. I feel like we have a rec plan, but it really isn't a pathways plan, and we need to, also do those things. I know we're doing the Triangle Trail, but we have so many other trail projects that are in our plan, but I'd kind of like to see it a separate focus plan just on non-motorized and not really about parks, so that we can prioritize that, maybe get some TAP grants and some other things like that. Obviously we're making progress, but we don't have very much money really, even though we passed our millage. Happy to hear about the dog park. I agree with Kathleen. I've gone to many sessions. They have things where you have to, obviously the dogs have to somehow prove that they've had their shots and rabies shots, and sometimes they have even swipe cards to get in. It's something typically is run by a larger agency who has staff. We don't have any staff, so you can't just fence something off, although they did do that at Pontiac Lake Recreation Area. They let them fence off a few dog runs, but that's basically all those are. So I guess that's all that I have, and thank everybody for coming. We got all of our members here tonight, and we'll look forward to maybe our last Zoom meeting and some outdoor meetings to come. So the next meeting date was June 9th, so that'll be almost summer. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, a second.
Andrea will support that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.